Leader of Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Premier. Today it appears the Minister of Finance will double down on his claims that Ontario has a balanced budget, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Let's start with the Financial Accountability Officer. In May of 2017, the FAO said, Spring Outlook said, we will continue to be in budget deficit for the next 5 years. Wow. 5 years, Mr. Speaker. Wow. He stated further, beginning in 2018 and 19, the FAO was projecting a steady deterioration in the budget deficit. Yep. So, Mr. Speaker, we have the Minister of Finance pretending we have a balanced budget. We have the FAO chosen and agreed to by the government saying that it is not accurate, that we're in a significant deficit. So my question to the Premier is, who's right, the Minister of Finance and his political spin, or the nonpartisan FAO?
Be seated, please. Be seated, please. Thank you. Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Let's look at some objective realities, Mr. Speaker. The fact is, Ontario is leading economic growth in the country, Mr. Speaker. Our unemployment rate is the lowest in 17 years, Mr. Speaker. We are seeing job creation, Mr. Speaker. Just this year, 125,000 net new jobs, 800,000 net new jobs since the recession, Mr. Speaker. The reality is, Ontario is doing very well. But here's the other reality, and the Minister of Finance will be speaking to this as well. Not everyone in this province is sharing in that, Mr. Speaker. Not everyone is feeling that benefit evenly. And so, Mr. Speaker, what we are doing as a government is we are putting in place supports, making sure that people have access in a fair way, Mr. Speaker, that they have access to opportunity across the province, whether it's students who will benefit and are benefiting from free tuition, whether it's young people starting January who will get free prescription medication, or whether it's the millions of people who will benefit from an increased minimum wage. That's the fairness and opportunity that we are saying.
Stop the clock, please. Be seated, please. Be seated, please. Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, again to the Premier, I had a pretty specific question, and that's the Minister of Finance says the budget is balanced, yet the FAO, the non-partisan legislative oversight, agreed to the government to make sure that facts are correct and the numbers are correct. That officer that the government agreed to is saying the government's numbers are wrong. And not just by a little bit. The Financial Accountability Officer's Economic and Fiscal Outlook predicts that Ontario's deficit will be $2.6 billion. So, Mr. Speaker, again to the Premier, and rather than talking about something nothing related to the question, I want to know who is right with their numbers. Is it the FAO, which is the nonpartisan legislative oversight, or is it the Minister of Finance and their fake Liberal spin?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think it's interesting that the Leader of the Opposition would suggest that the economic well-being of the citizens of this province has nothing to do with the economy of the province. That makes no sense, Mr. Speaker. The fact that there are millions of people in Ontario who can't look after themselves because they're earning $11.60 an hour and they will see a minimum wage increase.
The member from Leeds Grenville is warned. The member from Niagara West Glanbrook is warned. And there's a couple of others that are next. Carry on.
An increase to their wage as of January 1st, Mr. Speaker. I think that is that will make a material difference to the people who are.
The member from Nipissing is warned. Finish, please.
Who are struggling to make ends meet. Mr. Speaker, the reality is that if this Leader of the Opposition doesn't think that creating fairness in this province, creating opportunity in this province, when we're living in a province that is leading economic growth in the country, if he doesn't think that that's a priority, then he is completely off track in terms of what we believe as a government, Mr. Speaker.